back to character class. Now, one of the best knots in serving your community is known as a rabbit ears bowline. And what I mean by that is you're on a job site, you're heading home, maybe the weather's bad, and someone is stuck and you've got the right equipment, right tools, right knowledge to pull them out. So you want to be that good Samaritan to help somebody out. Here's the thing about that. Oftentimes we see vehicles that have tie-down points, especially trucks and cargo points or cargo tow points that are on, if this was, for example, a vehicle, here's a headlight, and underneath the bumper. You never use a bumper, but you would pull maybe you have two tow hook points in the front of a vehicle. And you want to pull that person out. Well, sometimes people try to figure out how to distribute that rope properly. Well, rabbit ears bowline is very effective. And we're going to show you, because you can actually make the rope, with a single rope, you can make two tie-down points that connect with a clevis pin. And this is a very small clevis. I would not use this for a vehicle. This might be something for a side-by-side to get out. But this clevis can be hooked to one end, another clevis can be hooked to another end into that vehicle, and you're off to the races and you're good to go. Sometimes vehicles have these already on the vehicle, but sometimes they also get stolen. So we'll talk about that in a second. So rabbit ears bowline, all you're going to do is you're going to half your rope. So take your two ends. So imagine your big tow rope after you've inspected it, and you half it. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a very loose and large half hitch. But you don't tighten it down. Don't do this. Leave it very open. Now notice I've got a very nice 2 to 3 foot. I probably would want this longer, but for purposes of demonstrations for today, definitely I'd want it longer if I'm going to do vehicles. But for purposes of demonstration, I'm going to keep this on, and then I'm going to take that loop and put it on my forearm. And notice that I drape it so it's on either side of my half hitch. But I'm not going to tighten down the half hitch. I'm actually going to pull it up so that the loop cinches underneath the half hitch. The loop cinches underneath the half hitch. Now this isn't big enough for a vehicle, but you can imagine I could make this easily bigger. Then I cinch it down. Now I have two tow points. Here's my bowline. It's double looped in some cases, but I do have my 3-byte system. Then I'll take my clevises and hook that to one side of the vehicle, hook that to the other. Now I've got the rest of this rope, double, not just single, but double, to be hooked to the vehicle that's going to pull it out, probably typically at the tow point. So that is a very effective knot. Let me show you one more time. That is a rabbit ears bowline. Can the rabbit ears bowline also be used for like rappelling emergency? Yes. If you got some other equipment, let's say you're not very happy and confident about a tree, but you know if you use the other tree, 2 trees, or 2 tie-down points, you can strengthen, you have a solid anchor. Let's say you're confident that way. That's where the rabbit ears bowline would take place. Would also be helpful too, to secure a rope line. Now, again, take your rope. And this is why it's also good on a very large rope to tape your halfway point. Put a little piece of tape on there so you don't have to do this all the time. In this case, I got my halfway point. I'm going to make it nice and big this time so you can see. So I'm going to have this big loop that I'm going to keep. I make a very loose half hitch. I don't finish it. I hold it in my hand, facing up. Then I put on either side of the loop on either side of that working half hitch. Then I pull the center of the half hitch so that that loop cinches down. I have to get handsy and remove my hand. Cinches down underneath the half hitch. And voila, I've got 2 cargo points. This probably might be big enough for a small truck, like one of those new Ford Mavericks maybe. But again, you can see what I've done. And now the rest of that line is now attached to the truck pole where I'm going to pull that truck. So again, with this though, you will need a set of clevises. May make a note about your equipment at this point. When dealing with clevises or even carabiners, we haven't really talked about these things, or even figure eights for rappelling. This equipment gets notoriously lost on a job site. It gets notoriously lost at home. You want to make sure that you have a bag that's an emergency bag, and when equipment gets used, it gets put back into that bag. If you leave something like this in like a toolbox or in one of your storage containers that people often go into, you will find it gets misused or misplaced. You don't want to be on a site where you look for your tow equipment to help out your buddy. You look in there and you don't have anything, and then you ask your wife, hey, you know where my clevises are at? Oh yeah, I use one to prop up the cat box for Tigger number 4. Right? Some of your parents are probably laughing right now because it's something like that's happened. So what you want to do is make sure you have, this gets into emphasis of a bag. I would not keep these things if I had it. This is a spare, so I do have it in my stuff container where we go in and use things to jury rig stuff around the ranch. But if I had, but my tow gear, my emergency equipment, I've got clevises ready to go in there, and they stay there. And the family knows that's what it's there for. It gets used and it gets immediately put back over there. So my only recommendation is to this kind of gear, make sure it is hung or secured with the gear that you're going to use with it. Otherwise, it's going to walk out of your toolboxes, especially your box of stuff that's used to jury rig or do emergency fixes around the house, and oftentimes doesn't get back to it. We'll see you on High Ground.